Hello. Hey, how are you guys doing tonight? Welcome in. Welcome in. It's good to see you guys. It is Tuesday, the 15th of October. 2 days till my birthday. 2 days till my birthday. I'm doing the final countdown of my last year of being, 20. That's what we're going to go with. That's what we're going to go with. We're going to go with that. Nobody tell me any differently. I could be whatever age I want to be. I think after a certain point in life, you kind of can't, really. I mean, technically, if no one really knows you, if you just move to another town, you could tell them you're whatever age you want to. You might not look it, but that'd be all right. That'd be all right, huh? Well, welcome in, everyone. I saw Cheryl was here, Mary Beth, Crystal. We got the usual crew in here. I love that. Ladybug's here tonight. Cat's Life, Faith. I'm not going to read through all the names, but True Crime Lullaby. It's good to see you guys. It's good to see you. Hey, Doodlebug. Hey, Phantom. Just kind of going towards the bottom. But welcome in. Hey, Lisa. Hey, Callie Cat. It's good to see everybody. Hey, 11 Summer Moon. Welcome in. It's good to see you guys. Hey, Heather. It's been a while since I've seen you. Welcome in. Hey, Fran. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Hey, Reba. It'll be here before you know it. It'll be gone before I know it. And then it'll be another, it'll be another year older. And I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like the way that, this all plays out. Like where when you get older, you're more, you're more with it, more with life. Well, usually, hopefully most of us are, by the time that we're in our early, I would say 30s, mid 30s. But I don't know. I just feel like we should have this power and these gifts in our 20s, because I wouldn't have wasted a lot of the time that I wasted in my 20s, but would have had the power and the knowledge that I have now, Oh, it's been hectic around here too, but I hope that everything works out. Hopefully everything's good. Faith said I'm 16. Helen, she doesn't like it either. See, we should go backwards in time. I told Vincent that. I was like, I am going to go back and be 37 this year. And he was like, does that make me 34? I said, no, that does not. No, that's not how this is working. That's not how the game is. Reba got her titanium implant today. She joined the club. We're at. Was it your arm? No, it wasn't your arm. Let me know. I forget now, Reba. I know that Dreamcatcher was her arm was worked on. And let me know what kind of titanium you got. If it's if you got a plate, if you got screws, if you got wedges, let us know. We'd love to know those things around here. Oh, yes. Internal monitor for I'm going to write that down. I want to know more about that. Shoot, of course I don't have a pen right with me. All over here on the other side. Oh, there's my dogs though. Look at them. When I moved away, you could see that's the best part of the show right there. Okay, let me write that down and then we will get to it, because I have had somebody tell me that they think that I have that. For the longest time, I've had someone tell me that. They're a counselor, so they're not real, but they have it. So they're not really a doctor to where they can be like, hey, this is what, it is. But she always talks about that. And I've never heard about the monitor. So let me see. Sorry, guys. As I'm writing this down, if you guys don't mind just taking a second, hit the like button. I know you'll like the video. I have faith. And then if you decide, hey, we hated that video, you can come back and you can take that like away. You can put that thumbs down, on there. But we're getting to it. Hey, J-E. Hey, Aries. Hey, Sailor. Okay, we got people rolling in. Hey, Nikki. CJK's here too. We got everybody. We got the whole crew. Don't think we have to send out for too many people yet. Not yet. So there is some more stuff going on in the Diddy saga. That's what I've just been calling it. I don't know. what you want to call it. But we do have some updates I wanted to kind of go over with you guys about just the charges against him, if there's going to be any new charges against him. There's been some documents that have come out. There also have been 6 new people. They're calling themselves, as of right now, John Does, Jane Does. They're not given their identity, but I think with some of them, people are going to be able to guess who it is. Like, for instance, one of the people that have come forward is underage. They were underage when this happened to them. And it says here, Daily Mail, Diddy's first underage accuser shares proof he was molested by Star at 1998 Hamptons white party. We'll see what the proof is. But there is a picture here, and he's like, got his little face, blurred out. I guarantee you someone is going to see this picture that was at that party, and they're going to know exactly who that kid was. That's all about if they're going to keep their mouth shut. If not, I'm not sure who the guy in the background over here is, but we'll have to enlarge the picture when we get down there to see who that could be. I don't think I would have probably put out any pictures. I know they want to be, a lot of people aren't, maybe trying to think of the words. Maybe he thought people wouldn't believe him if he didn't do this, but he didn't really have to go here yet. No one was asking any questions as far as I know. So a man accused Sean Diddy Combs of assaulting him when he was just 16 has shared a photograph of the pair together at one of the rapper's famous white parties. In court filings lodged on Monday, the man known only as John Doe accused Diddy of assaulting him at a 98 party while celebrities mingled nearby. There existed something sinister, a dark underbelly of crime, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, bribery, and prostitution, the court filing stated. Combs is a menace to society, women, and children. Diddy denies the allegations against him. The filing also posed a potential answer to the question of the baby oil found in Diddy's home after his arrest, noting there are allegations of Combs dousing victims in lotions or similar body oils laced with GHB so that the rug would be absorbed through the victim's skin and make it easier to assault him or her. Thought I looked that up, though. Okay, let's see. What's this? Look at this. Did we read this before? I don't think we did. Okay, we're gonna switch over just for a minute to this article. It says a warning has been issued that our words are mixing the rug GHB with lubricant. And this came out September of 2019. And it says gay men are being rugged without their knowledge using GHB put into lubricant in order to rape and sexually assault them. I don't think you have to be a gay man for that to fall, to be in that category. In a documentary to be broadcast on Sunday night, Stephen Morris, who runs the only specialist unit in the prison and probation service for offenders who commit crimes amid chemsex situation, warns one of the most recent developments is the GHB can be administered within lubricant. It says the show's going to reveal how GHB is being weaponized by R words and murders, and maps the abuse, addiction, and deaths it has caused among gay men. Well, I guess this is probably just focused on gay men because this is the documentary, just kind of focused on them, but in particular, but anybody can be rugged with it. Wow. So now we know that you can put it in lubricant and it could be absorbed in the skin. Man. The filing also posed a potential answer to the question of the baby oil. Okay, we already read that. Because some people were saying they thought in the beginning that the oil was being poured on these people so that it was harder for them to run away. But in my mind, I was like, well, it's going to be harder to grab them as well if they're doused with baby oil. But if you're putting it on them in an like closed space where they can't really get away from you, then yeah. And then the rugs would take effect. I wonder if I'm assuming it would be faster orally through a drink, but maybe this is the next best option if these women or men won't say, if they say no to a drink and they don't want to kick them out of the party, because usually they say they kick them out of the party if they didn't drink it. Maybe they didn't get it into their system. Maybe they tried to get them to drink it. Something happened. They didn't drink it. So this was what they resorted to. Diddy's white parties were once considered the most sought after invitation on the social scene and were attended by a constant stream of A-list stars. I actually watched an interview with Bow Wow that he pretty much was like, talked about how he missed the parties. Like, I don't think he meant it like the freak offs, but he shouldn't have been saying any of it, really, probably. According to new filing by Tony Busby, who says he is representing as many as 120 credible Diddy victims, it was also central to his alleged offending. He would tell victims, this is what it takes to be famous. What are you willing to do? Or what are you willing to do to become a star? I'll tell you what I'm not willing to do. I wouldn't even put regular baby oil all over me. Sorry, I hate feeling greasy like that. John Doe was 16 and living in New York City when he received a highly sought after invitation to the 1998 White Party in the Hamptons. When he received the invitation, he felt like he finally had the opportunity to rub shoulders with the who's who of the industry. He thought it could be his chance to break into the music industry, the court filing read. As John Doe entered, he spotted countless celebrities and A-listers who from the music and entertainment industry. He recognized faces he had seen on TV and on the big screen. The young boy was making his way through the crowd and heading towards the restroom when he unexpectedly bumped into Combs, the filing states. Shocked, John Doe found himself face to face with Combs, a titan in the music industry, standing right in front of him at his own party. The picture shared in the court filing was allegedly taken at that moment during this interaction. The filing states Combs took an interest in John Doe and wanted to talk to him. They walked to a more private area near the portable restrooms brought in for the party. There, John Doe told Combs he was a big fan of Combs and shared his dreams of becoming a star. Combs smiled, telling him he had potential and the look. When John Doe admitted his voice was not great, Combs assured him that did not matter. And it didn't, because look at Diddy's voice. Combs abruptly told John Doe that he needed to drop his pants. John Doe was allegedly completely caught off guard at the request and asked Diddy to repeat himself. Now, see, if somebody said that to me, you'd be able to hear me through the whole damn party. What'd you just say? Like, my voice would go up super high, you know? I mean, that would just be me. But that's, you know, I would hope I'd be that way anyway. I wonder if anyone did hear anything around those kind of like he said he was around the porter potties. It's not like Diddy's taking him into his house, like, you know, and making this private. Like, it doesn't seem like it's very private. Combs made himself clear. He instructed John Doe to drop his pants and expose his penis so that Combs could inspect it, explaining it was a rite of passage and the route to becoming a star, and also as a way to prove himself. Out of fear, anxiety, and the imbalanced power dynamic between himself and Combs, John Doe then dropped his pants and exposed his penis as Combs previously instructed. The filing states Combs moved closer and grabbed John Doe's penis and genitals with his hand. He firmly cupped and held onto that for an extended period of time. During this time, Combs moved his hand in such a fashion to manipulate John Doe's genitals, squeezing and feeling them. Doe was only 16. Busby has repeatedly stated more high-profile people could soon be named in suits and vowed to pursue the cases against any offender aggressively. Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I would say you need to do that. How is he doing this? Like in the broad daylight or whatever, at his party, by the porter potties. Porter potties are usually like hopping. Everybody's got to go to the bathroom at a party. You know what I mean? You have one drink. You're like, I don't know, I won't go yet. And then you go and you break the seal, and then you're there like every 5 minutes, right? So how is he getting away with doing these things? Like having full on conversations, like drop your pants. What? Excuse me? Drop your pants. Then the whoever it was, the 16-year-old kid, he's thinking about it. He's going through the process of, do I want to be in this business? Do I not want to be in this business? What am I supposed to do? And that's, you know what I mean? That's seconds. I don't see how, like, there's going to be some big names come out of this, I feel like, that are going to be like, they knew. Or maybe they were even serving up people to Sean Combs. I don't know. So it says, of the 120 people he is now representing, 25 claim they were minors at the time they were allegedly abused. In the filing, Busby said Diddy was able to target young, vulnerable people through a criminal enterprise built on his success as a rapper, record producer, and record executive. I know that. I believe Combs is one of the wealthiest musical artists, in the world. Oh, I hate that that's up there. I was going to try to see if we could see who they were behind him. As part of the abuse, Combs manipulated both men and women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity in both commercial sex workers and unexpected partygoers. Combs has profound contempt for women and a desire to dominate both minors and other men. His conduct shows a long-lasting practice of why can't I say this? Denigrating. Let me see something. Oh, great. That did not mean nothing. Denigrating, defeating, and attempting to humiliate men, women, and children. Nobody's off limits for Diddy. Nobody. Combs' attorneys issued a statement to dailymail.com. The press conference and 1-800 number that preceded today's barrage of filings were clear attempts to garner publicity, they said. Mr. Combs and his legal team have full confidence in the facts, their legal defenses, and the integrity of the judicial process. In court, the truth will prevail. That Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted anyone, adult or minor, man or woman. He was charged with a host of sex trafficking and racketeering offenses following his September 16th arrest. Last week, a judge scheduled his trial for May 2025. Already on the docket, already on the books. We'll look through these pictures, see what they do, what they have. I wish we could kind of see better. Like, I don't know any of these people. I can't recognize anybody by their hair or by their face, or can't see much though. Okay. And then, like, in this picture, like, this dude looks like Ja Rule. I don't know who that is. And then I don't know, these two ladies walking towards us. They look like they're out of place. Well, I guess not. They're wearing all white, but This was in the Hamptons. Girls pouring another champagne down another one's throat. What's that? Where is that at? Combs Labor Day party at his house in East Hampton in 1998. Wow. Oh, yeah. Okay. So they're going to talk a little bit about that. Actually, they're going to talk about it a lot in this. This just came out an hour ago, I believe. I want to make sure. Yeah. I want to make sure before I told you all that. just in case it came out like later. But this is going to be about what we just read, the 16-year-old John Doe that's come out that is stating that he was assaulted at a 1998 white party in the Hamptons by Diddy. Now, I don't know if people are coming out now because like one person came out, you know what I mean? And now it's like a domino effect. Or if some of these cases are going to be where it's going to be like maybe they're not like telling the truth and they're trying to get something out of it. My personal hope for this case is that nobody does that. Nobody comes out here and tries to get paid off of something that didn't happen to them. Because if they do that, that's just going to tarnish everybody else's reputation. Every other victim that comes out, no one's going to want to believe their story because of, a person or a handful of people. So I just hope that no one does that.
Silence has now been broken and victims are coming forward.
A Texas lawyer promised that more than 100 lawsuits were coming down the pike for Sean Diddy Combs, and now he is starting to fulfill that promise. Tony Busby filed several complaints on behalf of 6 alleged Diddy victims on Monday, and the victim in one of those suits says he was just 16 years old when he claims he was groped during one of Diddy's infamous white parties. We've got the latest on these new disturbing allegations of sexual assault. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. As 54-year-old Sean Diddy Combs sits behind bars in Brooklyn, New York on federal sex crimes charges, people from all over the country have been reaching out to Texas attorney Tony Busby to put their claims against the rapper on the record. Now, at the beginning of this month, Busby announced that his firm had gotten thousands of phone calls with stories of sexual assault and mistreatment, and that he vetted more than 100 cases that they believed they could take to civil court. Now, during his news conference, Busby emphasized that Combs' alleged victim pool was vast, covering different ages and genders and races and locations.
You should know, in this group, it is evenly divided between males and females. There are 60 males and 60 females who have joined us to pursue these claims as plaintiffs. In this group, 62% identify as African American, 30% are white, and the remainder are Hispanic or Asian. The victims are from more than 25 states. The majority are from California, New York, Georgia, and Florida. Our youngest victim at the time of the occurrence was 9 years old. We have an individual who was 14 years old. We have one who was 15. 25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors at the time of the acts complained of. Most of these events and incidents occurred at parties, typically after parties, our album release parties, New Year's Eve parties, 4th of July parties, something they called a puppy party, the all-white party, although several of these events occurred at auditions. Many times, especially young people wanting to break into the industry, were coerced into this type of conduct in the promise of being made a star, or in the promise of having Sean Combs listen to their tape or even let them read for Sean Combs.
What a story, right? I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes what we cover here on Sidebar can be a lot to take in. And that's why I always like to just take a minute to talk about something else, something positive. And one of the things that I really love to tell you guys is I love to talk.
He's going to tell us how we could save money with Upside. But I just told you.
First tank of gas. Hope you can check it out. Now, Sean Combs is, of course, a Grammy-winning music producer, rapper, behind the record label Bad Boy Entertainment, the Sean John clothing label. He's been a staple in entertainment and music for years. But now, anytime you mention his name, really what it comes back to is that he is an indicted defendant in New York. He's an accused sexual predator. He's been charged with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, transportation to engage in prostitution. Prosecutors allege that Combs used his power, his money, his influence to force employees, commercial sex workers, even unsuspecting women to facilitate and or participate in the now infamous freak-offs, described as hours-long sex performances that were usually recorded without the people's consent or knowledge and propelled by illegal drug use. But here's the thing, prosecutors aren't the only ones making allegations against Combs, because we know that Combs was already facing a whole slew of civil lawsuits prior to this week, with a civil action that was filed by his ex-girlfriend Cassandra Ventura in November of 2023. We believe that that was the lawsuit that really kicked everything into high gear, all the lawsuits, ultimately the criminal charges. And remember, Ventura claimed that during her on-again, off-again relationship with Combs, he forced her to partake in these freak-offs to the point that everybody would need an IV drip to recover. Now, during his news conference, going back to attorney Tony Busby, he said to the public and the media, you should expect the first of more than 100 new civil lawsuits to be filed against Combs in the next 30 days. But what happened? The first 6 came much sooner than that. As a note, Combs has adamantly denied any and all allegations, old and new. In a statement, Combs' legal team said that this is a clear attempt to get publicity. The attorney said they and Combs have full confidence in the facts, their legal defenses, and the integrity of the judicial process. In court, the truth will prevail that Mr. Combs has never sexually assaulted anyone, adult or minor, man or woman. However, in his own statement Monday, Tony Busby said, quote, the Busby Law Firm, along with co-counsel AVA Law Group and New York local counsel Curis Law, is filing 6 cases this week alleging aggravated sexual assault, sexual abuse, and sexual exploitation against Sean Diddy Combs and those entities with whom he has been affiliated, to include in one case Macy's department store and in another Marriott hotels. The cases are being brought for conduct that occurred over a span beginning in 1995 through 2021. All of the events occurred in New York and are being filed pursuant to the Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act, which we'll talk about in a minute. 4 of the alleged victims in these cases are male, 2 are female. One was 16 at the time of the alleged occurrences. We will let the allegations in the filed complaints speak for themselves, and we'll work to see that justice is done. We expect to be filing many more cases over the next several weeks, naming Mr. Combs and others as defendants as we continue to gather evidence and prepare the filings. Okay, so with that, we're going to be focusing on one lawsuit. We're going to be focusing on the allegations being made by the now grown man who says that he was 16 when Combs assaulted him. He is identified only as John Doe in this lawsuit. And while there have been accusations in prior civil lawsuits that Combs engaged in inappropriate or even illegal behavior with minors, to be very clear about something, his federal criminal charges do not relate to children in any way. There is, of course, the chance that there will be a superseding indictment, meaning that prosecutors go back to the grand jury with evidence of additional crimes that may relate to minors, but we're not at that point. He's not being charged with respect to minors currently. Having said that, now let's go back to this lawsuit. Let's break it down. So the lawsuit that was filed in New York federal court begins. This case seeks compensatory and punitive damages for the sexual assault of a minor. Let me stop right there. So compensatory damages are, yes, to compensate a plaintiff for what happened to them, to make them whole again. Punitive damages are a way to punish the defendant for really egregious conduct. So we start there. The assault, which was
Let's go back and listen to that again.
part of a to compensatory and punitive damages for the sexual assault of a minor. Let me stop right there. So compensatory damages are, yes, to compensate a plaintiff for what happened to them, to make them whole again. Punitive damages are a way to punish the defendant for really egregious conduct. So we start there. The assault, which was part of a practice that defendant Sean Combs had of grooming or attempting to groom minors, occurred at what was termed a white party at Combs' residence in New York. The conduct described herein is shockingly typical of defendant Sean Combs. Combs was aided in his abhorrent conduct over the years by many individuals and entities. Sean Combs, for many years, believed he was above the law. He is not. First glance, practice, typical, conduct.
Did he put himself like that to be above the law, or did he get away with a lot of crap and he thought he was above the law?
Over the years, these terms, I imagine, will not only be a theme in this lawsuit, but the other lawsuits that are filed by Tony Busby. But it is also a common theme in the prosecutor's indictment, too, that there were these alleged repeated patterns of illegal conduct by Sean Combs. Now, some of the accusations that are made against Combs in this lawsuit, they really echo some of the overt acts that prosecutors have pointed to in their effort to make the case that Combs was running a criminal enterprise. So in this lawsuit, it reads, Combs is one of the wealthiest musical artists in the world. Behind the facade of being a 3-time Grammy Award winner, discovering and developing multiple famous musical artists, ranking on Forbes' list of the highest paid entertainers in the world, there existed something sinister, a dark underbelly of crime, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, bribery, and prostitution. This is almost verbatim in a way from the criminal indictment. It goes on to say that Combs is a menace to society, women, and children. While his wealth has kept him above consequence for years, Combs now faces the awesome power of the American judicial system and ultimately a jury of his peers who will be asked to punish him for the deplorable conduct described herein. Now, Combs isn't the only one that John Doe is suing in this lawsuit. Now, the lawsuit also names Daddy's House Recordings. This is a recording studio in New York. Combs Enterprises, Bad Boy Entertainment, Bad Boy Productions. This is amongst others. Mm-hmm. And the reason is because, as they say, quote, Combs and his agents, employees, and contractors through these Combs businesses would tell victims, this is what it takes to be famous. What are you willing to do to become a star? And perform this sexual act or else, to coerce the victim into performing a non-consensual sex act for the gratification of Combs and his cohorts. Each of the Combs corporations aided and abetted Combs in committing the unlawful sexual violence against plaintiff described herein, are alter egos for Combs, completely dominated by him and used for his personal interest and to engage in wrongdoing which harm plaintiff and others, and or serve or have served as vehicles for Combs to move, dispose of, and or insulate his assets, including connection with his criminal activities, and to avoid compensating the victims of his many crimes, including plaintiffs. So big theme there that Combs had control over these entities. Sometimes we see these cases where corporations and business entities are trying to be held liable for the conduct of an employee or an associate. Sometimes the defense will be that this employee is not really.
I hate that suit. I'm going to say it every single time. Every single time they show it, I'm going to say it. Look at his eyes. He's hateful.
An employee is not acting within.
Like, why is he so mad right now? Like, look at him. He looks like he's mad.
In the scope of their employment, that there is a separation between the.
Hold on a second. Is he just sitting on the stairs? At like the Met Gala? Do you know how many dirty shoes have been on that carpet that you're laying that suit thing on? Because he's mad because he's hungry or something. He's so mad he just took a seat on the carpet. On the stairs. He's like, I'm just gonna take a seat right here. He mad. He hangry or something. He's just sitting on the stairs. At least he's on the whiter side, not the blue side. You know what I mean? Because the colors would kind of clash. But where's Cassie? Is that her standing behind him?
Employee is not acting within the scope of their employment, that there is a separation between the company and the defendant. Here, if you're saying he's in control of all these entities and he's using these resources and assets for his benefit to perpetrate a crime, that argument becomes a lot more difficult. But going back to the lawsuit then goes on to describe what happened to John Doe, or what John Doe says happened to him. Mr. Combs' legendary white parties in the Hamptons were well known by many, including John Doe, the kind where countless celebrities would attend. In 1998, when John Doe was only 16 years old, he was recruited out of New York City and indeed, while residing in New York City, received an invitation to one of Combs' parties through a mutual connection. As John Doe made his way through the crowd toward the restroom, he unexpectedly bumped into Combs. Shocked, John Doe found himself face to face with Combs, a titan in the music industry, standing right in front of him in his own party. Doe took a picture with Combs at the 1998 party. Now, here's the thing. That picture is actually included in the lawsuit. John Doe, whose face is blurred out, is standing next to a smiling Sean Combs outside, clear as daylight. The lawsuit goes on to say that Combs took an interest in John Doe and wanted to talk to him. They walked to a more private area near the portable restrooms brought in for the party. There, John Doe told Combs he was a big fan of Combs and shared his dreams of becoming a star. Combs smiled, telling him he had potential and the look. When John Doe admitted his voice was not great, Combs assured him that did not matter. Combs made clear that the only thing that mattered was having the right look for the industry, and with it, Combs could transform Doe or anybody into a star. Combs abruptly told John Doe that he needed to drop his pants. John Doe, caught completely off guard, confusingly asked Combs to repeat himself. Combs made himself clear. He instructed John Doe to drop his pants and expose his penis so that Combs could inspect it, explaining it was a rite of passage and the route to becoming a star, and also as a way to prove himself. "Don't you want to break into the business?" Combs allegedly said. Doe immediately felt uncomfortable, froze, and did not know what to do. Combs remained calm and stood in front of him and stretched out his hand in a cupped position. Out of fear, anxiety, and the imbalanced power dynamic between himself and Combs, John Doe then dropped his pants and exposed his penis as Combs previously instructed. Now, that point's really important because to anybody that would say this is consensual, and by the way, when you're talking with a minor, there is no such thing as consent. But generally speaking, that power dynamic becomes a key in sexual assault cases as well as sex trafficking cases. So that power dynamic, that fear, becomes a really, really big, important factor. But what does the lawsuit claim? The lawsuit claims that Combs groped this teenager, that he sexually assaulted him, apparently, by the way, without any concern that someone might walk nearby or see them. And by the way, when you think about that, if this were to go to trial, Combs could say, would he really do something like this in the open where anyone could observe this allegedly criminal behavior? The other way of looking at this, and I don't know if this would make its way into this kind of trial, remember what we all saw. Sean Combs in 2016 purportedly beating Cassandra Ventura in a hotel hallway while wearing a towel. If we want to talk about what's blatant and out in the open, is that not a pretty clear example of what he
wanted to beat her ass so bad right then and there that he didn't even care if he was stark naked. Think about that for a minute. As I guess we're going to call it a music mogul, ex-music mogul, you probably don't want to be seen in, the nude, but he didn't care. So I'm assuming when he got into the shower or something, that's when she pieced out because he's in a towel, and I don't know. I think if he was doing something different, he would have grabbed like a robe or something. I don't know. Maybe not.
Potentially is capable of or allegedly capable of. And by the way, he admitted that in an Instagram post 2 days after that video was released by CNN, basically said it was him. So if he would beat somebody in a kind of a public area like that, is it beyond the realm of possibility that he could do something like this? Again, very unrelated incidents, but something that I thought about as I was reading this lawsuit. Now, John Doe says that after several minutes, Combs walked away from this assault as if nothing had happened. The complaint reads, as a result of Combs' sexual assault onto John Doe while he was a minor, John Doe experienced damages, including pain and suffering, mental anguish, physical impairment, and emotional torment. The interaction continues to humiliate and cause shame on John Doe. Because of Combs' power and notoriety, plaintiff was afraid to report what had happened. John Doe became yet another sexual assault victim of Combs through the same pattern and abuse of influence Combs exercised over others previously. Now that's important because it goes to the argument of why now? If this goes to trial and this accuser testifies, you know he's going to be grilled about why he is coming out now to file this lawsuit. The allegation would be put forward by the defense. He's only doing this to jump on the bandwagon, that this isn't true, that he's just looking for a payday. Everybody else sued Sean Combs. Why not do the same? But this assertion in this complaint suggests he was in fear. And that is a common theme for many accusers. We have seen it in a lot of different sexual assault cases, whether civil cases, criminal cases, that people do not come forward for a variety of reasons, and that can't necessarily be used against them. Sure, Sean Combs would have the opportunity to cross-examine this witness, goes to his credibility, totally fair game. But the other way of looking at it, we have a much different and deeper understanding of sexual assault today than maybe we did 10, 15 years ago. And remember here, the argument is, and we've seen this reflected in other lawsuits, that it took Cassandra Ventura and others to file their lawsuits, and especially now for Combs to be locked away in pretrial detention, for these people to feel safe to come forward with their own allegations. So we will see how that shakes up. Now, the lawsuit names one cause of action: violation of New York City's Victims of Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act. This is important. We've talked about the GMVA before. It has been cited as a cause of action in numerous prior lawsuits against Sean Combs. So John Doe's legal team argued why the GMVA would apply to this case. They write, the requirement that the crime of violence be committed because of gender or on the basis of gender, and due at least in part to be an animus based on the victim's gender, is satisfied because defendant Combs forced plaintiff to engage in a sexual interaction without consent. John Doe could not effectively consent because of his age. The non-consensual sexual touching of a minor herein presented a serious risk of physical injury and, in fact, caused such injury. And by the way, there is now a look-back window to sue for these kinds of claims that would otherwise be time-barred. People can sue under this law until February 28th, 2025. That is why we are seeing a lot of these lawsuits. And by the way, another significant difference between this law and, let's say, the Adult Survivors Act in New York, which also created a look-back window to sue, but for specifically sexual assault claims, this Protection Act allows plaintiffs to recover not only damages, but also attorney's fees and costs, which can be quite significant. But what about the businesses associated with Combs? The lawsuit says, quote, the Combs business enabled Combs to commit the crime of violence motivated by gender by failing to, among other things, protect plaintiff from a known danger and or have sufficient policies and procedures in place to prevent sexual assault and or train their employees on identifying and preventing sexual assault. Given long-standing pattern and practice of committing sexual violence against minors who were boys, including on premises owned and or operated by defendants, the Combs corporations had and or should have had knowledge that Combs was a danger to plaintiff and did nothing to stop Combs. The Combs corporations further enabled Combs to commit the crime of violence motivated by gender by actively placing, maintaining, and or employing Combs in a position of power and authority, despite the fact that they knew and or should have known that Combs had a widespread and well-known practice of committing sexual assault and gender-motivated violence, including on premises owned and or operated by defendants. And as I mentioned before, we've seen this in other lawsuits. The defense would be that Combs wasn't acting within the scope of his employment. He wasn't engaged as an employee when this alleged conduct occurred. Therefore, how can you hold him liable? So we'll see again how that shakes up. Now, as I mentioned, Tony Busby's law firm filed lawsuits on behalf of 6 new clients on Monday. He expects many more to be on the horizon, which is, not good news for one of the richest men in hip hop. But as I said on a previous sidebar, it is possible, and we may see Sean Combs' legal teams fighting to stay or pause these civil lawsuits until the completion of the criminal case. So we'll see if that happens. And we'll also see what happens with new lawsuits as they potentially come up. That's all.
Why is he sitting up on the stairs like that? I'm just like, I'm still wondering, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I need to do a reenactment of that. The Diddler, right? Monster has done so much. Yeah, I wonder if there's any new videos by those guys. Let's see. Um, I found his profile. Well, we're just gonna follow him. Oh, wait, oh my gosh, I think he did do another one. I don't know if this is about. Oh, this is about a different. This is about a different show. Okay, but no, those people are funny. Those guys that do they calls them the diddler. Soul Child, I feel like it is. The whole world has turned crazy, right? We talking about an alarm that goes off. I'm just like reading the chat. Like here I am just reading the chat. I do want to go through a little bit of this document here. Let me see which one actually. This one. Okay, so this is Exhibit 1. And it is the United States versus Combs. I got on a website where you can get like all of his documents. This one actually came out today, like it was last updated or anyway, and put in, I believe, today. The date of last known filing. So that this is the last known filing. Sorry, guys. That I have for him. And let me just. I'm gonna double check. Triple check. Today is the 15th. Main document. And then this is the exhibit part. Yeah, okay. So we're going to read through the exhibit part of the document. It says, we write on behalf of our client, Mr. Sean Combs, regarding serious threats to his rights to due process and a fair trial. If the documents, if you guys ever come in, and I usually will have it scrolling, and I'll scroll it real quick. But if the documents are in blue, that means that they are from the defense. So if you ever come in late and you're not sure what we're talking about, it'll kind of help you. The indictment treats Mr. Combs' sexual history over the past 16 years from 2008 through 2024 as part of an alleged vast criminal conspiracy. The government has claimed that there are multiple victims, yet has not identified any. Other than victim 1, there is no way for Mr. Combs to determine who these other unidentified alleged victims are, nor do we anticipate being able to ascertain the identity of the alleged victims from the discovery, which we understand will reflect videos of can't say that word very well, consensual sex. Let me put this up a little bit so we can all read this a little better. I had it so far down, like so. No one can read that. As a result, Mr. Combs will be unable to tell which of his prior sexual partners now claim years later that they felt coerced. The government is thus forcing him unfairly to play a guessing game, one made all the more challenging by the slew of baseless allegations and desperate plaintiffs are lodging at him, for the most part anonymously, and opportunistic civil suits. Couldn't get that word out either. Good. To enable Mr. Combs to prepare for trial consistent with due process, the government must provide greater particularity on the charges against him, specifically the identity of the alleged victims. In order for Mr. Combs to defend against the charges against him effectively, it is imperative that he know the identity of the alleged victims. Let me know what you guys think of that. In order to, okay. Accordingly, we demand that the government provide the names of all individuals it considers to be victims of Mr. Combs' alleged criminal conduct. Now, I can understand that in a way. If somebody was coming at me saying that I sexually assaulted them, right? I did all the things. If I was guilty of it, right? Actually, if it's him, no. He's had way too many people. If he's guilty, he's not going to know which one is filing the suit. If he was not guilty of it, I feel like then you could just keep on going like you are because you know you didn't do anything wrong. But it says, we also demand materials and information pursuant to Rule 16 of the Federal Rules of the Criminal Procedure, Brady versus Maryland. And we know all about Gilio versus United States from, Kohlberger's court hearing. We demand that you immediately turn over all exculpatory material in your possession, including but not limited to the following. All information indicating that participation in the freak-offs was consensual, including evidence and statements from alleged victims and other participants that 1, all participants were adults capable of deciding whether or not to participate. 2, to the extent any participants consumed drugs or alcohol, they did so voluntarily. 3, at no point did any participant express any unwillingness to participate. 4, to the extent any participant expressed unwillingness, they were not forced to participate. B, all information showing that the alleged victims and witnesses are lying, exaggerating, or otherwise unreliable, including all information relating to the alleged victims' financial, reputational, personal, or professional motivations to claim abuse. C, all information showing that prior to the alleged victim's motivation to lie, they were not afraid of Mr. Combs and never reported, whether formally or informally, any instances of coercion, force, or abuse. D, all information showing that to the extent there were any disputes between Mr. Combs and any alleged victims, those were disputes related to infidelity or other interpersonal matters and not related to alleged force or coercion to participate in a sexual activity. E, all information relating to the government's unsuccessful attempts to find corroborating information from local law enforcement, 911 records, hospital records, or any other I cannot say this word. There's just too many syllables. Contemporaneous reporting. Sorry, guys. All information relating to the government's failure to fully investigate alleged victims, including failures to obtain the alleged victims' phone records, email records, travel records, arrest records, medical records, drug records, or drug abuse and rehabilitation records, draft memoirs, financial records, and attempts to commit extortion. All information relating to the government's failure to fully investigate the alleged victims' agency and freedom during the alleged periods of coercion and abuse, including failures to investigate the alleged victims' financial records, transportation records, employment records, and housing records. There's some more. All information regarding individuals who have claimed to be victims, but who have not been credited or corroborated by the government. Indeed, many of Mr. Combs' accusers have already been discredited. All information relating to the leak of the hotel footage by law enforcement, including communications by and among government agents about the leak, internal investigations relating to the leak, and the identity of the HSI agent or agents who were responsible for the leak. All information suggesting that the decision to prosecute Mr. Combs was radically motivated, including information relating to the government's previous unsuccessful attempts to investigate and prosecute Mr. Combs, and information relating to the government decision to charge Mr. Combs with a racially motivated and discriminatory statute. Any information inconsistent with the facts asserted in the affidavits filed in connection with the search warrant in this case, including, and it's redacted there. They want it all. We expect that your witness statements contain such material. They're just asking for anything that could be, that would be considered Brady or like exculpatory evidence. If any such statements contain any Brady material, they must be immediately produced, notwithstanding the fact that they may be otherwise governed by, and it gives the sanction. It is well settled that Section 3500's bar on early disclosure of witness statement must give way to the constitutional disclosure obligations set forth in Brady and its progeny. This request also specifically includes notes of conversations and meetings with counsel for alleged victims and witnesses. We further request that you direct other acting on your behalf, including your agents, witnesses, and alleged victims, to turn over this information that is in their possession. The government cannot avoid its Brady obligations by sticking its head in the sand. No one's asking to do that. The government cannot meet its ethical obligations by simply producing massive amounts of electronic evidence without specifically pointing out exculpatory material. Did you take this out of Ann Taylor's playbook? Given the volume of discovery produced in this case, which apparently amounts to 4 terabytes of data, it's a lot of data. And the breadth of the investigation, the government is obligated to specifically identify Brady material among the discovery it plans to produce. 4 terabytes. Isn't that as much as Gilgo Beach, or was his 6 terabytes? As you are aware, Mr. Combs' right to a fair and impartial jury is becoming increasingly jeopardized every day. His case is being litigated in the press largely by nameless accusers. Well, I mean, I'm not an accuser, but it was just like by us, by people like me, with uncorroborated stories who seek to capitalize on the government allegations and are looking for a quick payday. Because Mr. Combs has no idea who the government is crediting as an alleged victim for purposes of the criminal case, Local Rule 23.1 prevents him from defending himself against any of these allegations, no matter how untrue. Oh, we're almost done with this. The government has no obligation to ensure that Mr. Combs receives a fair trial. This obligation should, at a minimum, require the government to direct its agents, alleged victims, and witnesses to refrain from speaking with the press. This is particularly warranted given the number of government leaks to date. It is also warranted in light of the alleged victims' deeply prejudicial allegations to which Mr. Combs cannot respond and which taint the jury pool. The most recent allegation concerning abuse of minors is particularly troubling and have the potential to irreversibly poison the jury pool. Under the circumstances, the government cannot sit by and let such public disseminations interfere with Mr. Combs' right to a fair trial. Gag it up if they need to, I guess. Thank you for your cooperation. If the government declines to specifically identify and provide any of the information requested or refuses to advise its alleged victims and witnesses, please advise us of the government's objections so that we may properly bring such dispute to the court's attention. And sincerely, my 500 lawyers. Now he has 3 different, looks like 3 different attorney offices. And then I don't know how many different attorneys. And I know that nice ladybug, I saw that earlier, the likes compared to the people in chat. I was like, thank y'all. Everybody's doing so good with liking the video tonight. Hey, Mike. So I wanted to show you guys this video. It says exclusive secrets about P. Diddy's freak-off spilled by TV host who went to parties. And I guess this TV host, where is she from? She's from it says, a British TV host. She said that she had went to these parties. She has been to these parties and she is spilling the tea. She is going to allegedly tell us what she's witnessed and some of the sinister actions that go on behind the scenes, around the 3 a.m. mark. So let's see what they have to say in this video here.
The allegations against P. Diddy just keep on coming, this time from a British TV host with hundreds of thousands of Instagram followers. Now, she's revealing the shocking details of Diddy's parties with guest lists of underage girls whose drinks were laced with drugs. It's just another accusation in a long list of others, all alleging a pattern of abuse at the hands of Diddy spanning decades. 54-year-old Sean P.
Hate that suit.
P. Diddy Combs is nearing the 1-month mark of life behind bars. The disgraced music icon has spent the past several weeks at the Metropolitan Detention Center in New York. This comes after Diddy's arrest on September 16th, when a grand jury indicted him on charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Diddy has appeared in court several times since his arrest and made several attempts at bail, one of which is still pending. But for now, he's being held in a protective care unit at MDC Brooklyn. He's pleaded not guilty to the charges and just last week was assigned a May 2025 trial date. In the past, Diddy's attorney has been outspoken, saying Diddy's side of the story will be told when it comes time for trial. One of his defense attorneys, Mark Agnifilo, actually even said Diddy plans to testify when it comes time for trial. Now, that still remains to be seen, but we can make an educated guess that the witness testimony will be pretty compelling and likely from a lot of survivors. The federal indictment mentions only one listed as victim one. Now, their name isn't included, but we can infer that victim one is actually Cassandra Ventura. She's also known as the singer Cassie, who dated Diddy for several years, starting when she was just a teenager. Cassie filed civil suit against Diddy in November of last year, introducing us to the phrase freak-offs. This was once again defined in the federal indictment as elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. This is all part of Diddy's alleged scheme. He would drug women or spike their drinks, sexually assault them, and or force them to have sex with a prostitute, all while he's recording. Now, it's these recordings that led to Diddy's arrest, as the feds collected some during the raids of his home back in March.
Okay, I know you're multitasking when you're watching our videos, and if you're out and about running errands, listen up. I have to tell you about the free app Upside that gives you cash back.
Man, well, Upside, well, you guys, sponsor me because I think you guys give out a lot of money if you're on 2 of long crime videos.
But back to Cassie. Her lawsuit with Diddy was settled just one day after it was filed, but it was too late. Since then, more than a dozen civil suits have been filed against Diddy, all laying out the similar pattern of abuse. We can also expect more than 100 new civil lawsuits to be filed against Diddy over the next few weeks. This was announced by Houston-based attorney Tony Busby, who alleges he received literally thousands of calls from survivors, all claiming to have been sexually assaulted by Diddy. There are other allegations that high-profile celebrities took part in these freak-offs and sexual assaults. And that leads us to the newest allegation coming from Precious Muir, a British TV host who has thousands of followers on Instagram. Muir says she moved to New York in 2005 and was told that she needed to network to make a name for herself in the entertainment industry. That led Muir to some of Diddy's parties, where she allegedly witnessed some sinister actions, young girls being drugged against their will and forced to have sex. She told the Daily Mail, quote, "I wanted to be invited and be around these amazing and incredible people. So if you had the opportunity, you went. Back then, we didn't have the luxury of social media and Instagram to message a brand directly. Going to parties weren't just an option, but they were part of our job." According to Muir, shuttles or SUVs with tinted windows would pick up girls and take them to these Diddy parties that oftentimes had some major celebrity names. Muir says she was warned not to smoke any weed there because Diddy would apparently sprinkle stuff in it. On top of that, the vodka shots were apparently laced with drugs. At one point, Muir says she had a drink that was spiked, causing half of her face to go numb. She said, quote, "I truly believe that not participating in drugs prevented me from going into a dark place that many other girls went to." During this era, Muir says she met Diddy and Cassie, who were dating. She says Diddy was obviously the leader of the pack, who took advantage of young girls who had showbiz dreams. It didn't matter if the girls were underage either. Muir says it was not a place for children as there was nudity and sex, but that didn't stop Diddy from recruiting young women, allegedly. Muir says, quote, "I saw people hooking up sexually. When I went to the bathroom, I saw condom wrappers and fragments of cocaine on the side with whatever thing they used to sniff it." She went on to say that as the leader, Diddy was never told no. She said, quote, "You can sense that he has a lot of confidence and that he likes to be in control and tell his inner circle what to do. And I don't think anyone ever really says no to him." Security guards were apparently also present at these parties, who were on the watch for anyone who pulled out their phones to take pics or videos. These personal recordings were not allowed, but Diddy himself was allowed to record. And according to Muir, there were cameras scattered around the rooms recording everything. Now, according to the federal indictment that was filed decades after these parties, Diddy would use these same recordings as blackmail against the survivors, saying he would release it if they spoke up about this alleged abuse. It's just one more shocking allegation that adds to the case against Diddy. To understand what all this new information means for Diddy's case, we're talking to former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney Mike Korbanix. We're talking about P. Diddy yet again, and I don't know if I'm surprised or what that we have another allegation that another person's coming forward and saying, hey, I went to those freak offs, I saw what it was all about. What are you thinking when you hear that yet another person's coming forward with these accusations?
I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking right now. All I can think about is this masking tape on the top of, of her headphones. Who at Law and Crime put masking tape on the top of her headphones and probably put her name on it? That's what it looks like.
Well, it's difficult to see because there's so many people coming forward that I think there's going
It's like people can't have nice things, you know?
to be a very big question by the defense as to what exactly is admissible. And if this person was actually a victim or were just at a party where they saw things that necessarily weren't illegal if they weren't a victim and didn't see exactly what made it illegal. So that's an interesting question here, because I don't think some of the people were actually victims that are coming forward. They saw things, but I don't know if they saw all the details. And especially when it gets to be an issue of sexual assaults or things of that nature, is did they hear non-consent or consent where it was coming? So I think we're going to hear some new areas of admissibility of evidence in this case that we haven't heard before.
Yeah, that's a good point. This person, Precious, who she has like a massive following on Instagram, she's not alleging that she was sexually assaulted, just that she witnessed some questionable things at these freak offs. And I do think you brought up a good point about the defense. They're going to want to know, okay, is she just there saying, she saw it? What can come in? And I guess that leads to my next question here. She says she moved to New York in 2005, and these freak offs that she saw apparently happened way back then. But now we're in 2024. So could any of that even be admissible anyway?
Well, it depends upon when exactly and what's covering the time frame of these episodes. Was it a continuing conspiracy? Because that always will lengthen the statute of limitations, as to usually it goes to when the last event occurred, not necessarily when it stopped. But these are all going to be very interesting questions, because it's very unusual that you have a trial that goes over such a long period of time with such a variety of people. And I think that's going to be another question too, is by having so many victims in one indictment, is the defendant being prejudiced because people are going to hear so many different witnesses, that are they going to accept that witness is just for that incident, or are they going to let it roll over into, well, the other person said that as well? That has some serious constitutional questions.
Yeah, when we're talking about the number of people who are alleging these acts of violence at the hands of Diddy, I mean, we're at hundreds. I mean, thousands, actually, if you believe some of the attorneys who are saying, okay, yeah, 12,000 people are calling us reporting that they were allegedly sexually assaulted by Diddy. So dozens, hundreds, thousands. I mean, a lot of people are saying that they were sexually assaulted by P. Diddy. And that brings into question, when it comes time for this trial, which I guess now is May of next year, when it comes time, how many of these victims or survivors are going to testify? I mean, that's obviously an overwhelming number of people, but what do you think the prosecution would want to bring to make sure that their case is as good as it can get?
Well, I would think the prosecution, if they have a strong case, would want to bring less than more, and rely on quality and not quantity, because you've got to have witnesses that are coming straight forward and not opening doors for the defense to create reasonable doubt as to whether or not these people are in fact credible or not. I think a big question is going to be, as well as, if you were a victim, why did it take you so many years to come forward? Or were you just a victim because things didn't work out because you're hoping to advance? And that's going to be a very interesting question. It may not sound like the nicest questions to ask, but it is a question when you're defending someone, to see if they're proving beyond a reasonable doubt whether or not that person did not consent to what happened.
And I do think you're bringing up a good point here in that there's so many people who are coming forward that the defense obviously has to be asking a couple of questions. P. Diddy's a huge name, and we've been talking about him, I mean, for months at this point. And now I'm wondering the defense will probably say something like, okay, this is very opportunistic of you. If you actually were sexually assaulted, again, to your point, Mike, why did it take you so long to come forward? So, are these things that the defense is going to go through and vet if and when it comes time for all of these witnesses that they know are going to be called for the future trial? Are they going to go through and really make sure that these people have airtight stories?
Oh, absolutely. That's part of
Yeah,
our
it's our job.
obligation as defense attorneys. I've been on both sides as a prosecutor and a defense
Bit me
attorney.
last night.
And you have
Itching
to
my backside.
prepare to make sure that those questions are going to be asked that are relevant to the case, but do not prejudice the jury as to what they're going to decide. And you have to make sure that these witnesses have credibility. And what were the reasons? If it was one of the reasons they delayed was because they had some, and there are some experts who will testify that there's mental health issues that may prevent somebody from reporting something because they're afraid, or was it that I was willing to do this as long as I advanced in my career? And that's going to be the interesting question, I think. I mean, I haven't seen all the discovery in this matter, but that's going to be the interesting question as to where this is going to go forward.
And the reason we're talking about this story today at all is because this woman, Precious, came forward and is talking about these freak offs. And that's really the topic we've been talking about almost a month now, at least. But as far as what she's talking about, the allegations, sexual assault is really tough to talk about at all. But now she's bringing out something else forward, rather, and it's that there was child sexual assault. She's saying that these places were not appropriate for children, and yet they were there. She's saying she potentially witnessed some of this. And what's interesting, though, is that in the federal indictment, we don't see any charges for child sex crimes. But there are people who have come forward, in addition to Precious, other people who are saying that it happened when they were under age 18. So what do you think? Do you think the federal prosecutors are considering all this information?
I am sure they are. I mean, the federal prosecutors don't just come forward momentarily or quickly. I mean, they haven't even brought charges until after a couple of years of investigation. So it will be interesting to see what they have and what they're going to use. Just because they have it doesn't mean they're going to use it. But obviously, for it taking so long, it would appear that each time they opened the door, another door opened, and that's why the investigation kept going, because one person introduced to another person, and that could be problematic for the defense.
One of the reasons I like to talk to you specifically, Mike, is because you have background on both sides of things. So we talked about the defense, but also the prosecution, because you've been in a prosecutor's office yourself. And put yourself back in that state. If you are one of the ones who's working on this P. Diddy case, I mean, how do you even begin? I know that they brought these charges. Obviously, there's been a lot of investigation. They wrote their indictment, all of that. But now there's dozens, again, hundreds, thousands, maybe people coming forward saying that they were assaulted. They saw something. They might have videos, recordings, whatever it may be. If you're a prosecutor, how are you dealing with all this access information?
Well, I think first what you're going at is seeing which is the information that's the strongest. And those cases are the ones the ones that have the strongest evidence are the ones you want to proceed with. I mean, there's only so many convictions he needs, or the government needs to get in this case, to put him in for almost a life sentence at his age and what the capability is, 20 years, 30 years. Could there be things that go to life? There has to be looking in it. And also the question is, if each incident was a separate incident, those could be run consecutively. So those could add up to life sentences in no amount of time.
This case is just fascinating in so many levels, because it's like more people come forward every single day. And yet there's still so much that we as the public don't know, which we'll likely learn again when it goes to trial. And as of now, that's set for May of next year. So Diddy was arrested September 16th, and now he's set to go to trial less than a year later in May. Is that enough time for either side? I know it's his right, obviously, to go to trial, but wouldn't they want a little more time to prepare?
Well, especially nowadays, and I'm not saying this to be funny, but everything is download a computer for evidence, download this and that. And, that takes a lot of time to prepare for either the prosecution or the defense. I mean, it could be a 5-minute phone call. Well, that's easy for someone who was on that 5-minute phone call to interpret. But for a prosecutor or defense attorney, that 5-minute phone call could take hours to go through to make sure you understand what are they talking about? What does this insinuate? Where is this going? So with all the technology that is now being used in investigations, I think this is going to take a lot more time to prepare for trial than they're saying. And if it gets pushed, isn't that giving the defense an appealable issue right there if they didn't have enough time to prepare and give effective assistance of counsel?
That's a good point, because as defense attorneys, I'm sure they're always thinking, obviously preparing for this case, but appeals, that will be a big thing too. I mean, is that something that Diddy's defense is kind of keeping in mind throughout all of this?
Well, I guess theoretically, but being a trial lawyer is you don't want to depend on appeals. You want to depend on winning. You want to depend on making sure that the government doesn't prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. But also, as well as, you have to be aware of what could be coming in and what could be prejudicial. Now, quite frankly, the government worries greatly about that as well. As if we have all these witnesses, we want to make sure, I would think, that we're not bringing witnesses that will put some sort of question as to the evidence we're producing for this prosecution. So they may not, while they may have thousands of witnesses, they may want to really cut down and say which are the witnesses that are the strongest in the proofs and will be the most to assure us that there is no reasonable doubt in front of the jury as to whether or not he's guilty.
Talking about those witnesses that will undoubtedly be called for the prosecution, I know that this is something really tough to talk about because we are dealing with sexual assault, that these are survivors here, obviously a really traumatizing time in their life, but they're going to have to go up on a stand and recount all of this. And in some cases, there's photos, videos, audio recording of these really, traumatizing and graphic moments from their lives. Is this something that prosecutors are going to keep in mind? The fact that you're going to have this witness on the stand who could break down. I mean, I probably would be breaking down seeing myself in some sort of situation like this. So is that something they're going to keep in mind to make sure they can get the testimony they want, but also make sure to maintain the integrity of the case and deal with them and their trauma?
Well, that's always a difficult situation, especially like when you have families in a murder case, when you have families testifying. I mean, it's emotional. And it does bring up those emotions, especially, there's a lot of experts who will say victims of sexual assault don't always come immediately forward with it. It takes a while for them to be comfortable and where they're going and to even have to open that up to the public in a courtroom. That's rather difficult. So these things are all things that need to be dealt with, but you have to let the witness be who the witness is. And that's the only way they're going to have credibility in front of a jury. That's just my opinion.
Talking a lot about the witnesses, obviously what they saw, and circling back to the story that we're talking about today, the specific woman, Precious. Again, she didn't say that she was sexually assaulted, but she did witness some things. Do you think it's possible that the defense, or the prosecution rather, would call some of these people who were at these parties, who allegedly saw some of these incidents happening? Do you think that these people could be called at all?
Yeah, why wouldn't they?
Well, I think, yes, they could be called because they sort of give credibility to the government calling them as the witnesses because they're not victims and they're just telling you what they saw. So they can't be something that would be brought up on cross-examination is, oh, they're just in it for a civil suit. They want to make some money. They didn't get what they wanted, so now it's a problem. So that is, I think, a very strong type of witness for the government and a very difficult witness for the defense.
And the underlying theme we're talking about throughout all of this, because these allegations are so horrific and traumatizing, is that it does sometimes happen where these people don't come forward right away. This is something that you pointed out. I mean, they're going through it internally, whatever it may be, that they come out years later. So the defense is questioning this, but the prosecution, again, you're saying they may bring some sort of expert testimony to say, yeah, it's normal, there's studies, whatever it may be. But in this case of Precious coming forward years after this happened, do you think that kind of goes in the vein of the situation? Obviously, she wasn't traumatized firsthand, but even witnessing some of this emotionally impacted situations, do you think it's possible that's why it took her so long to come forward with all this?
Yeah, it could be. It could be the fact that she didn't feel, someone couldn't have felt comfortable, or someone could have felt in fear because of the fame of the person they're talking about, what they saw and what they witnessed at these parties. I don't know enough about what they saw or witnessed, but were they afraid of people who were there? Did they feel intimidated? Did they feel that they were basically saying, whatever you do here is okay because I'm here and you invited me, so I'll keep my mouth shut? That could be a whole bunch of things. Or it could just be that how many times do anybody, normal people, look back at something that happened previously and not realize the effect it had, and all of a sudden it comes to some sort of eye-opening experience that, wow, that was a lot worse than I thought it was back then, and now I need to do something about that.
This next question, just to wrap it up, is kind of speculation, but I'm interested to see what you have to say. We've spoken a lot about the prosecution and what they have. We read it through the indictment. We've seen some of the things that were collected during the raids. What do you think, in your expert opinion? Do they have a strong case against Diddy?
It's too difficult for me to say right now because I don't know what all the evidence is, quite frankly. But it does seem, anytime the federal government comes across with a prosecution that they've been investigating for this amount of time, it's something that a defense attorney has to look at very seriously and where they're going with it. And it's just something that needs to be taken one step at a time. And at the end of the day, what sometimes we forget is the ultimate decision is upon the jurors, not the prosecutor, not the defense attorney. It's how the jury looks at that evidence and testimony, and do they find that the government came and met the standard of beyond a reasonable doubt? Meaning, like, this, I think, may have happened, but you know what? I'm not really sure because of why people reacted who are alleged victims in here. Does that bring us to the high standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt?
Mike, I'm glad that you brought that up because that's what it is. It's up to the jury at the end of it, all of this. So we'll see which way they go. It's important to note that Diddy has pleaded not guilty to all the charges against him. After his arrest, his attorney, Mark Agnifilo, released a statement reading in part, quote, "Sean Diddy Combs is a music icon, self-made entrepreneur, loving family man, and proven philanthropist who has spent the last 30 years building an empire, adoring his children, and working to uplift the Black community. He is an imperfect person, but is not criminal. To his credit, Mr. Combs has been nothing but cooperative with the investigation. Please reserve your judgment until you have all the facts. These are the acts of an innocent man with nothing to hide, and he looks forward to clearing his name in court."
For Long Crime News, I'm Sierra Gillespie.
Okay, Sarah Gillespie. I'm not sure who that is. She must be new. I think she is new. I was looking to see if there was anything new on Diddy. There is one thing. There was another victim that's come forward. She was assaulted with a object, a television remote. I guess this was after she had said she believed that he had something to do with Tupac's murder. So don't piss him off, I guess, apparently, if all these things are true. That he has asked for the names to be publicly put out there. Now, I think that he could know the names and then they could place a gag order. That way he knows, I mean, he does need to know who he's defending himself against, I would think. Now, maybe not the minor. Maybe not the minor. What else was there? Oh, Diddy wished his youngest birthday love happy birthday from jail. Somebody from the outside, it must have been his mama. He had her put it on Instagram, like he's allowed to be on Instagram. But, he can't be. So, sorry I kept scratching my back tonight. I got like these little bug bites on them. On my like a cluster. And it's like on both sides of my shoulder bones. There's only one over here, but man. I don't know what it was that got me. I have not been bit by anything and for so long. And my back's just and the back of my foot. I don't know who the guy was with the crooked tie. I think that he was just a I think he was a lawyer. Not a very not very entertaining guy. His tie was crooked and I was like, I'm gonna fall asleep on you, guy. I'm gonna fall asleep on you. But that's all I really have for you guys for tonight with Diddy. Let's see. Whenever something else comes out, of course, I will let you know. See what I had up at the top. I don't know if I could be closed. I do want to go over Manta Caffel Bat's case. He was back in court. Nothing that I know of. But 11 hours ago, they were searching near Route 50 in Loudoun County. And that's where I think she is, Loudoun County. I think she's in Loudoun. 4 days ago. Yeah, that's when they're talking about it. About the Loudoun County. I don't know. We'll have to look over that. I also want to do. I'm like, what's that? Seeing if there's anything new on the victim thing. Sarah Boone, she should be starting trial any day now. They've been having jury selection for her. I'm not sure if they got all of her jury yet or not. Let's see. And then we need to go over Leilani Simon's latest court as well. So there's a lot of things we need to cover. Let me see here. Let me see. What was that? All the jury selected for Delphi murder trial. Sarah. What? No, she didn't. Sarah did not request things today. Jennifer Koffendorfer put this on her Facebook, on her Twitter, and says, Sarah requested 5 peppermints, 2 juice packs, 2 bags of chips, a bag of candy, and either a Pop-Tart or bag of cookies today per at Joel Walden News. You aren't home anymore, Sarah. Sarah is on trial for leaving her boyfriend zipped in a suitcase. What the? Sarah? She wants snacks, more outfits, shoes, water. How about you get you a suitcase and stuff you in? We stuff you in and shut you up. There you go. So she really does want some shit. I guess Alec Murdoch asked for mints. Remember, I thought they were pills. I was like, is he taking pills in the middle? I really did. I didn't know what he was popping. But he was popping them Tic Tacs like it was nothing. Oh, man. Wow. Sarah Boone. Well, If I were the judge in the Sarah Boone, granted handcuffs, shackles, stun vests, suitcase to lock you up during trial, denial, snacks, water, wardrobe, shoe, shower, commissary, phone, tablet, email, text, reading materials, etc. What is it? I don't know. People drama. I don't know. Blackmail. Yeah. Your daughter does spoil you, Wizard. What'd she do? Ooh. It's late, but I don't care. Wizard Walt, you're an adult and you're allowed to do whatever you want to do. That's the best part. It's the best part about being an adult. We can eat whatever we want, whenever we want, right? It's one of the good things. Like right now, when I'm done with my life, I drink the biggest glass of chocolate milk you've ever seen in your life. And I have a touch of the lactose intolerance. I have more of a reaction if I drink if I drink that and that's it, and I don't do any dairy other than that, I'm good. But if I were to like yogurt and that, I would be getting sick everywhere. But I do eat. I do drink chocolate milk every night before bed. My mom drank milk before bed every night. Like that was her thing every night before bed. And then all of a sudden I hit this age and I just started doing it. And I'm like, I'm just like her. I love chocolate milk. I don't like regular milk. I just like chocolate milk. And it has to be the powdered sugar, like the powdered Nesquik, not the syrupy kind. I like the powder kind. If I did what? Now I don't know what I said. What would I be sanctioned for? I forget what I even said. Oh. Yeah. Trying. I always have to go send chocolate milk to my daughter at her dorm. It's good. Good stuff. I mean, I could be drinking a shot of bourbon every night, you know? Oh. That doesn't sound good. When I drank that wine the other night, I was like, how am I going to drink all this? But I did. I drank it all. I was surprised. So I'll keep my eyes peeled because I thought that they said something about Leilani, I thought it was, not having court for a couple of days because of something going on. Now I'm going to have to figure out if it was hers or if it was Sarah's. Let me see. Never mind. I thought that was something. Okay. Oh, wow. Man, I got like these. I gotta get something on these mosquito, whatever they are. Oh, thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate that. Thank you. I just slicked her on back and curled her up a little. But I'll be on tomorrow. I didn't come on today because I was exhausted. Like today was our first cold day, and my body felt it. It felt it. Like if I'm like in achy pain, it not only am I in achy pain, but it just like zaps my energy. So thank you guys for being here tonight. I do appreciate it. And hopefully I think tomorrow's going to be cold too, but after tomorrow, hopefully it'll warm up a little, just a teeny bit before it gets really cold. Because just on the 12th, I was wearing shorts. So I just can't take that. I can't take this. But thanks for being here, guys. I'll be back tomorrow night. Don't you forget, if I'm not here tomorrow during the day or over on the second channel. But thank you guys for being here. I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Have a wonderful night, and I'll see you later. Bye.